Roger Federer, 20 Grand Slam titles. Rafael Nadal, 22 Grand Slam title. And Novak Djokovic just won his 22nd Grand Slam title in Australia in January. But Federer has retired, Nadal is constantly struggling with injuries, and Djokovic is on a 20-match unbeaten run. So is this the year where he ends the GOAT debate? That's the question we are asking on this live. Hello and welcome to WION Sports Extra. I am Nikhil Mathur, and as always I'm joined by my editor Digvijay Singh Deo and by my colleague Vidur Kathuria. So is this the year for Djokovic?
Well, I think this is the year which will define the GOAT debate. The problem with tennis fans is that it's evenly split, right? There's the Federer fans, there are the diehard Rafael Nadal fans, there are the diehard Djokovic fans. And you would probably never get all three of them in agreement. But I think if you just look at sheer numbers, if that's going to define where this rivalry is sort of going and who's going to end as number one, let's face it, I don't think tennis has ever had a phase where you had three of the contenders for the greatest of all time playing together. Djokovic has had his struggles ever since COVID has happened. He's sort of not been able to play as much as he wanted to play last year. I think he played just 11 tournaments.
Yeah.
He won 5 of them, including the Tour finals and Wimbledon as well. So I think if it comes to sheer numbers, this is the year we could see him extend that gap because, as you mentioned, Nadal is injured. And we don't know how it's going to pan out in the French. Nadal at the French is a different beast altogether.
No
but there's also this feeling across the tennis circuit that this is probably going to be Nadal's last year. And the way Djokovic is playing, you put some matches under his belt and just see none of the chasing pack. I mean, the Medvedevs of the world, the Hurkaches of the world, the next generation of what, 12, 13 years younger, they can't hold a candle to him even at his he's what, 35, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I get the feeling that this year will define that GOAT debate in terms of the numbers. That you could see Djokovic ending this year with at least 24 Grand Slam titles. You would still think he is the favorite to win Wimbledon.
So 24 Grand Slam.
Could be 24 at the end of the year. Could be 24, and if Nadal isn't anywhere close to his best, it could be 25 because he came close. The year before this, he came very close. He lost to Medvedev in that final, or he could have won all 4. But this is a year I think Djokovic has a chance of winning all 4.
What's your take?
I think Djokovic has once again established that he is the best player in tennis right now. There's no debate to that. I think that even the French Open, I mean Nadal, whenever he plays the French Open, he is the favorite to win it. I think Djokovic has a real shot at winning the French Open. And if he wins that, he's definitely the favorite to win Wimbledon. I mean, when was the last time he lost a match at Wimbledon?
I don't remember.
It was probably 2017, I think.
Yeah. But that was also a phase when he was struggling. Once he reached that high of being world number 1 and he held all 4 Grand Slams at the same time, then there was that drop off. He lost in the French early to Cecchinato and it was that phase. But once he sort of found that, as you said, the mojo back, he's been a different beast.
And you would say even Nadal close to full fitness, he's not going to be like completely fit this come May. That's what I feel. Even Nadal, who is close to full fitness, back in 2021, Djokovic beat Nadal at the 2021 French Open, that epic match, and he obviously went on to win it. And he's the only player to beat Nadal twice at the French Open. How many matches has Nadal lost at the French Open? I think it's what, 3?
3 Soderling and those 2 games.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So talking about...
But just to add to that, but the problem again with that is that Nadal at the French is a different beast.
Of course,
last year,
absolutely.
you were wondering if he'll go past the first round. Then the second round, we thought he could even retire. Then he goes on and wins it. I think his biggest test was Zverev.
Yeah.
And he beat Djokovic also in the quarters.
He
did. Beat Djokovic in the quarters, creamed him.
Yeah.
And in the semis, I think Zverev had him under serious pressure, but then Zverev had that injury and Casper Ruud was demolished. And I just thought that was Nadal's greatest win because he wasn't close anywhere to being fit. He had that rib injury when he lost to Fritz, was it?
Indian Wells.
Indian Wells, Fritz?
Yeah,
I think so. Fred.
Yeah.
To the final.
Yeah.
Then took a break, then came back, then lost. Alcaraz won all those tournaments heading into the French.
That's
and that chronic foot injury, will he retire? And then the guy just goes in and
Also,
wins.
another big if, it's a big if, but Djokovic, I mean, the rules could change heading into the US Open. So, you never know.
The rules are changing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're changing
But-
right now. I think May is currently is when those
Yeah, they'll
entry
be-
restrictions expire. That's why he can't play Indian
then we
Wells
looked at
and
it.
Miami.
Yeah.
But
Although
then,
he has asked for an exemption.
but I think he just said
is-
it last night that I'm not confident anymore that I'll play and I'll
Yeah,
probably
there's
pull
not
out.
that much time left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of players who have defeated Djokovic, like Medvedev defeated him, and he's going to play against him in the semi-final of the Dubai Open. Will it go to 3 sets?
Well, you presume it will go to 3 sets. Okay, now Djokovic this entire year, he's dropped 3 sets. He dropped one at the Australian Open against the Frenchman. I'm getting the name G.O.A.T something.
Yeah.
Then he dropped a set against Skoda just before that in the final at Adelaide.
Yeah, that's
and he's dropped a set here, but he was rusty against
coming off
Machaj.
from an-
Medvedev coming into some serious form. And let's not forget, Medvedev, there was a time last year when he was world number 1. He was the best tennis player out there, just had a momentary blip against Nadal, and Nadal then went and won that final in Australia. But then there was sort of this slide. But you seem to think now that he's sort of got that game back. Hard courts is where he's always been good at. He's going for what, 3 in a row?
3 in a row, yeah.
Rotterdam, Doha, and this one. So, if there's anyone who could push Djokovic this year, I think it's going to be Daniil Medvedev. But I really thought that Tsitsipas, the Zverevs of the world would do it. But the way he dismantled Tsitsipas in that final in Melbourne, that gap is too massive. And I think Rajiv Ram told me in January, he said, let's not get carried away by the fact that Alcaraz then was number 1 and US Open champion. He said, remember, Djokovic didn't play. And Djokovic didn't play much of the 2022 season because of his issues with the COVID vaccine. So on his day and the way he's playing right now, as Vidur said, best player in the world by a country mile.
Yeah. Just a point about Medvedev, as Digvijay said, there was a point he was the best player in the world. And we keep talking about this next gen. Out of this next generation, they're no longer the next generation, all of them are experienced now. But out of these players, Medvedev is easily the most accomplished.
He's got the Grand Slam.
He's got the Grand Slam, he's been world number 1.
And that too, the Grand Slam beating an informed Djokovic in the final. That's why sort of for me, you put him a bit ahead. He creamed him 3 sets.
Yeah. It was an unbelievable match, and the strange thing about that match was Djokovic actually had crowd support in that match in the US Open. And also, before that as well, I think he has played in 2 Grand Slam finals, two Australian.
Nadal in the 21 final, he lost to Nadal.
22 final he lost to Nadal.
The 22?
Yeah, 22 final, that's last year. He lost
He
to
also
Nadal.
lost him previously.
Yeah,
Was it
to
19?
Djokovic. He lost to Djokovic in 21, I think. So yeah, I mean, basically he has played in Grand Slam finals. He's been there. Of course, he has that Grand Slam.
No, he won the 21 final. That's where he denied Djokovic the...
He won the 2021 US Open final.
Open.
I'm talking about Australian Open.
okay.
Yeah, Australian Open, I think he was
lost, yeah,
beaten
he lost. He
by
got hammered.
Djokovic. Yeah,
3 sets.
Yeah.
3-2, 3, something like that.
So just going by pure stats, 378 weeks as world number 1, no player has done this. Just going purely by the stats, does Djokovic at this moment has an edge over Nadal?
If you go with pure stats, and I've got something noted down here, in terms of big titles, so that's 22 Grand Slams, same as Nadal, okay? Federer's 20.
20.
ATP Masters 1000s, Nadal 36, Djokovic 38. I think that's where the big titles is 59 and 66.
Oh.
That gap is massive, and then you throw in the 378 weeks as world number 1. Nadal isn't even close. Federer had 311. I may be wrong, but I don't think Nadal's crossed 200 weeks as world number 1.
You'll have to check that.
Yeah.
So what is it then that is stopping Djokovic from being the GOAT? I think it's the perception.
Of course.
Everyone who watches tennis, Roger Federer was always regarded as the greatest because of the way he played, the grace he personified. Nadal was that all aggressive style when he came on, the antithesis to sort of the Federer, but he's evolved over the years as well. He's become the people's champion.
Yeah.
Djokovic is sort of always divided opinion. At the beginning he used to imitate these players. That's why he was known as the Joker, right? I remember his impersonations of Maria Sharapova and all those other players. That didn't make him very popular in the dressing room, locker room. Then once he got onto this this run of I want to be world number one, he became very competitive. And there was always sort of Federer and Nadal on one side and Djokovic on the other. Then his intentions were good when he sort of wanted to set up this player association after the COVID pandemic, when he said that the top 100 in the world are still making money, what about everyone else? So noble intentions, perhaps the messaging was lost.
Well, he says he's misunderstood.
And then even what he did in Australia, Vidut, I mean, you weren't here back then, we were covering that story. It wasn't wrong. When he spoke about those players who were locked up for 14 days and he wanted those curbs to ease, he became sort of this villain back in Australia because obviously because of COVID they were all sort of locked up indoors. But there was logic to his argument.
Yeah.
There's always been logic. It's just that the perception and then what happened last year. I thought it was very unfair with him.
Of course.
The fact that he was given an exemption, he arrived there, banking on that exemption, and then he was treated like a common criminal.
And he was defended by many of his fellow players.
Curious, that's where
That's where that bromance started. That's true.
So that's what is holding Djokovic back. I think it's that perception. And I remember when he got chucked out of the US Open in 2020, for hitting the ball
US
kid.
Open.
The ball kid.
And he would have 100% he would won that
he went in
US Open.
match. He had 20
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, so all that sort of factors in against that perception, that he may be the best, as you said, he's the best tennis player right now.
Yeah.
But he's not regarded as the greatest of all time, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Just one thing I'd like to point out. I don't think Djokovic's legacy will ever match Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal's. Purely because of what Federer and Nadal mean to the sport of tennis and to tennis fans all over the world. Whenever you say tennis, everyone thinks about Federer and Nadal because they opened up the sport to an entirely different audience. There are some players who are just, synonymous with the sport. Like, for example, even if you don't follow NFL, like most of us in India don't, everyone knows Tom Brady. If you don't follow golf, everyone knows Tiger Woods. So it's like that.
But is the perception changing? Because in the recent Australian Open, the fans loved him. He got a brilliant reception.
Also, I think they realized that what happened last year was unfair to him. Yeah. But just talking about Federer and Nadal, Federer's peak started 2003 when he won Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And then Nadal came first of his this thing, and then Nadal came around two years later. Djokovic, even though he won his first Grand Slam early, he sort of entered that debate only in 2011.
Yeah. 11 he went on that unbelievable streak where he changed his diet as he's spoken about.
The Joker tag was shed and he became this ultra competitive tennis player. So there's also Federer and Nadal, that gap was just 2 years before Nadal came and started challenging Federer. Because I remember I was at the Beijing Olympics and Nadal had beaten Federer in that Wimbledon final. Federer started crying, that perception of Federer broke.
Yeah.
And he didn't even win a medal in singles. He lost to Blake. And then went and won the doubles with Wawrinka. I saw that demolition of Pace and Bhupathi there. And but that was still those 2 years intervening and then that great rivalry. Djokovic was always the third person in this rivalry. It's only now that he's gone into his own, but by that time Federer's peak was gone. And I think Federer was a freak of nature who was still playing at winning Grand Slams at 37, 38. I don't think anyone else can. If anyone else can, it's going to be Novak Djokovic, who at 35 is screaming the likes of Hurkacz, who are 21, 22?
But do you think, since you have watched a lot more tennis than any of us, Federer and Nadal, I don't think they ever went on the kind of streak that Djokovic has been, say, for the last 3-4 years. His record in Grand Slams in the last 4 to 5 years.
No, there was a time when Federer had it. I think 2003, 2008, that period when he was winning the
Wimbledon every year.
and then he was winning US Open.
US Open.
He had that streak in Grand Slams. When you talk about Federer, you have to remember that I think he reached 24, 25 Grand Slam semi-finals in a row. The exact figure is somewhere there. When you go to quarterfinals, he reached the quarterfinals of Grand Slams, I think 40 plus. That was consistency.
Yeah.
Djokovic hasn't got that consistency yet. He's obviously, in the last 4 or 5 years, he's reaching there. But I think that's what also adds to the Federer debate and puts the weight there that look at the consistency of Federer in Grand Slam semi-finals till that point.
Yeah.
I think that's we have to factor that in as
Yeah.
well. And Djokovic perhaps is now getting there, but it doesn't help that you're not playing Grand Slams.
Yeah. And one more thing, he does not have that Olympic gold medal, which he has been.
Federer.
Well, he has a doubles gold medal. Yeah. But
Nadal,
still.
Nadal got 2, right? No,
No,
more.
Nadal has one.
No,
Well,
Nadal
he
had
won
doubles as well.
2000. Oh,
in 16.
yeah.
Federer had the doubles with Wawrinka, and Djokovic
has
lost to Pablo Carreño
Busta in the bronze medal match.
and before that, who he used to? Zverev.
He lost to.
Zverev.
Oh yeah.
Zverev.
Yeah, but he lost to Del Potro in the
That was a
2016.
match.
Yeah.
What a match that was. That match
But
with
he-
Del Potro was something.
He's going to go for gold in Paris.
At least there's one place where he's allowed to play.
So Nadal fans, Djokovic fans,
Any questions?
any questions?
Okay, we've got some questions. People asking why are you texting during this? That's where we receive your, your questions. Okay. So okay, we have one. Gautam asks why Djokovic is less famous than Federer and Nadal despite being number one. I thought we just address that. We just rework it with you. That's my perception of why I think he's not loved. But for you, what do you think, just sitting on the outside and sort of watching? Why do you think he's not loved as much as a Federer or a Nadal? 378 weeks as world number one is no joke.
I think just because he has strong, he comes across as a person who has strong opinions. Like that COVID thing that it happened, like he was part, like he has his own sets of rules. He knows what he wants. He doesn't care about what the world is thinking. So probably that played a bit of a part in, and Nadal and Federer wear the emotion on their sleeve. Like as we saw when the Federer's finale, the final match, like they just show what they are. Like they let their emotions show. And I think Djokovic is more of a tough guy. He's like, I'll do it and then I'll show it. So probably just that connect is not there.
Yeah, just on that, my favorite abiding memory of Djokovic is I think he beat Murray in 5 sets in the Australian, 2010, 2011, and then he sort of, after playing that marathon 5 hours, 40 thing, he tears that shirt apart, the Hulk moment. So he does show his emotions.
Well, like I said before, in terms of legacy and in terms of what Federer and Nadal mean to tennis fans all over the world, it's very different. Djokovic, his image is such that he's seen as a controversial personality, especially
He's abrasive
in the last,
is the right word. Abrasive.
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 So he's someone who will, as you said, that he, expresses his opinion and he doesn't care about what people think. Probably that has come back to bite him over the last few years, especially his stance on COVID, which he is not going, doesn't seem like he's going to change.
Can I just because you said that, something just came to my mind. You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Michael Schumacher. Same single-minded sort of focus and determination that I have to win and win at all costs. Schumacher for many was and is the greatest driver, but you ask pure racing fans and they would say Ayrton Senna any day. Despite Senna winning only 3 world championships to 7 from Schumacher. Lewis Hamilton 7 doesn't get the same love. If sheer numbers were the indicator of greatness, then of course Schumacher the greatest, Hamilton the greatest, Djokovic the greatest. But clearly in this debate you have to look at other things as well. When you look at the greatest, everything else comes in. The way you conduct yourself, the way your peers sort of relate to you, and the word is that not too many people like him in tennis as well for challenging the status quo. Another question which I have, and I'll take this one to you. R. Raghavan asks, will Djokovic become the only player to win 30 Grand Slams? I presume you mean 30 Grand Slam singles titles, because there are many who won more than that. The great Martina Navratilova won 59.
Yeah.
But with Djokovic, it looks a bit difficult. Like,
Okay, let's do the math. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. Let's do the math. He's at 22.
22.
He's playing the French and Wimbledon for sure. So you say he wins those two. That becomes 24.
Best case scenario, say he goes
26.
to... No, as in best case, no, let's
This
go
year.
year by year.
Year by year.
Say best case scenario,
This
by
year
the end
two.
of the year, say 2 Grand Slams. So
Okay,
he's at 24.
24.
He's definitely
Australian.
going to play in 2025 as well, you would assume. Like,
But he'll be 37, 38 then.
yeah, but he's going to probably
I think he's
play...
got his 2 more years at the very top.
yeah, I
So
agree.
you're looking at 8 Grand Slams. That's 24, 25. That's 8 Grand Slams and the 3 this year. That's 11.
Yeah. So
11.
30, I think it will be astounding
Yeah.
if he is able
He's
to
going to be 8
reach
out of
that.
11. That's
That's
a bit
a bit,
difficult.
yeah.
But I think 25, 26 is a realistic figure.
25 is
I think Mahesh
definitely.
Bhupathi said that to me, I think.
Yeah.
That he looks at Djokovic somehow ending up at around 25.
Yeah.
That could turn it around. If there's a significant gap between Djokovic, Grand Slam wins, Nadal, Grand Slam wins, Federer's out.
Yeah.
Then it's difficult to argue, because if he wins those many Grand Slams, then that world number 1 is also going to extend to say 450 or 500 weeks.
Yeah.
Just one thing I'd like to say about Djokovic before we wrap up. If we forget what Federer and Nadal mean to everyone and the legacy that they have, etc., numbers, we've touched upon that. Purely as a tennis player, just throw everything else out of the equation. Purely as a tennis player, if you were to select one out of Djokovic, Federer or Nadal, you don't know the surface. It's random. Some alien from the world is going to come and you have to pick one player to defend the fate of the world. Then who are you going for?
That's
Answer that
that's
question.
quite a movie plot right here, by Vidur.
If that's the phrase which you said, then you'll obviously either Nadal or Djokovic, because you know they'll give everything.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, who would I pay to watch? Roger Federer, any day.
That's not the question.
Yeah, if your life depends on it.
Yeah.
But again, surfaces, I think all surfaces Djokovic.
Yeah.
Because I think what he's done at the French, the only man to sort of push Nadal, on that surface and beat him is Djokovic. Federer couldn't go anywhere close to Nadal on that red clay. The only time Federer won the French was when Nadal got knocked out by Soderling.
Yeah.
And Federer won that.
Yeah.
On grass, Federer's supposedly greatest surface, he's pushed him hard.
Yeah.
That great final in 2019, he's
Yeah,
pushed
yeah.
Federer hard.
Yeah.
And Nadal is just that, the greatness of Nadal is mostly down to the 14 he won in the French. right?
Djokovic could end his career as the record Wimbledon champion. That's a possibility
That
as
is
well.
a possibility.
So yeah.
That answers the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Djokovic, I think before Nadal won his second Australian Open title, Djokovic was the only man in the Open era to win each Grand Slam twice.
Yeah. I also think he's the Avenger you need. He's Tony Stark.
Yeah.
He's Tony Stark.
Yeah.
So I think we have covered all the points. And speaking of tennis,
I hope you like this thing. We're not tennis experts. So we're
Yeah.
just people who watch tennis, sort of cover tennis. But it's nice to have an opinion, and these kind of things always sort of generate opinions.
yeah. And speaking of tennis, we have a big interview coming up at 6:30 p.m. IST.
Yes, we've spoken to Sania Mirza, who, remember, retired last week after her final match at the Dubai Tennis Championships. And I spoke to Sania earlier, and we're not looking at Sania Mirza's tennis journey, but the impact she's had on Indian sport and on Indian society as a general. And we're forgetting, test match.
Yes, we haven't touched upon that, but yes, Australia have won a test. The series is now 2-1, so nicely sets up that final match. And of course, they've qualified for the World Test
And now the
Championship
fourth
final.
is like
What happens next? Will you go for a spinning track in Ahmedabad? No.
Yeah.
I don't know. They were talking of having a seam-friendly track. What's going to happen now? 2-2? But it's a big wake-up call for India. I think they got complacent.
Yeah.
So that's it for today. Tune in to WION Sports Extra on Monday. See you.
I won't be there. These two. Yeah.